Cinderella is the latest film from Sony Pictures, distributed exclusively by Amazon Prime Video. It stars Camila Cabello, Idina Menzel, Billy Porter, Pierce Brosnan, Minnie Driver and James Corden, and is written and directed by Pitch Perfect's Kay Cannon. Before we get into this, don't forget to hit that like button down below. It does wonders in getting my content out there, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to keep up to date with all my videos. Cinderella is a modern movie musical with a bold take on the classic fairy tale. Our ambitious heroine has big dreams, and with the help of her fab godmother, she perseveres to make them come true. Alright, look, if you're a regular viewer, you know that my reviews are usually pretty positive. I usually like most things that I watch, and most of my reviews are, fairly good reviews. It's very rare that I do give a bad review to anything or a bad rating or anything. I like to find the positive in things, and it's very, very rare that I dislike something, or dislike something immensely. Occasionally though, a movie does slip through the cracks, and unfortunately that is the case here with this new version of Cinderella. I'll say from the top, I didn't really enjoy this movie. I'm not really a big fan of this at all. But I'm going to try and be as nice as I can, because there's no point in railing in on a film or a piece of, artwork. I will preface this by saying this movie just simply was not for me. I was not the right audience for this movie. I'm not usually a big fan of musicals, so this had that working against it for me. I particularly don't like the Pitch Perfect movies. I really, really don't like them. Really don't like them. And of course this movie comes from the writer of the Pitch Perfect films, or at least the first Pitch Perfect movie, and this is very much Pitch Perfect. This is almost like built in that same mold. The music's very similar, the performances are very similar, the story is very similar, and naturally this is just not a movie that I vibed with or I was in the right audience for. So again, I can't rail in on it. But I didn't like it, well, to put it quite lightly. There is so many versions of Cinderella out there. Dozens and dozens of versions of this classic fairy tale. They have been made over the years. Obviously, the one that's going to come to mind first is Disney, and whether that's the Disney animation from 1950s or whether that is the live-action film, which came out only like 6 years ago, the Disney Cinderella is the first thing that's going to come to your mind. Now, usually I would say it's a little bit unfair to kind of compare something like this to maybe the Disney version or something that we're a bit more familiar with, but it's kind of hard to separate the two in this instance, I personally feel. At this point, that is a fairly beloved movie. In fact, most people, including myself, consider that to be the best live-action remake that Disney has done, if not, one of the best. Now, I think there's really only a couple of reasons why this movie exists at all, and first and foremost, it is quite obviously designed to cash in on Disney's incredibly popular and lucrative trend of remaking their classic animations or remaking classic fairy tales into live-action blockbuster spectacles. Again, I would usually not feel very comfortable with comparing things, you try and look at it as its own thing, but this movie is very much built in the mold of these Disney live actions, whether that's right down to the costumes and the set design. You look at this and it looks like the Disney version of Cinderella. It really does. I mean, they have clearly taken some inspiration from that film. And I think maybe even more so from Beauty and the Beast. There's a number of scenes in this film set in like a marketplace, this kind of market square in the middle of this, I guess, medieval town, and it looks exactly like the one that was seen at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast. It just feels like one of these Disney movies, but with a smaller budget and not as big, not as lavish, not as, blockbustery. I feel like this movie has that working against it, but I felt like this movie didn't try enough or really try at all to try and distance itself away from that kind of thing. Now, of course, it is legal for anyone to go and make a Cinderella movie because the original Cinderella story is in the public domain. It was written hundreds of years ago. Disney simply owns copyright on their version of Cinderella, which is their version of the characters, their version of the story, their version of the songs, all that stuff. So you can make a Cinderella movie or an Aladdin movie or a Snow White movie as long as you're not encroaching on that Disney IP. This movie does that very, very finely. There are some things in here that are ripped almost directly from Disney, right down to the fact that Cinderella is called Ella. I've never seen that. I could be wrong, but I have never personally seen that in a traditional retelling of the story or a traditional text of the Cinderella story. That is only something I have seen in the Disney version. The mice as her friends is also something that's ripped directly from the Disney thing. She has like 3 mice who are her friends, and then of course they later become the coachmen. Now that was in the original book, but the mice were mice that she found in a mousetrap, and then they turned them into coaches. They were not her friends. That comes directly from Disney. There's even, when Billy Porter comes in, Billy Porter plays the fairy godmother in this, really terrifically, but the very first line of the very first song that he sings when he comes into the movie is, "When you wish upon a star." Very, very little done here to try and distance itself away from the Disney stuff. And I just think from the get-go, it has that working against it. If you're going to do something like this, it's perfectly fine. Make your own version of Cinderella. Make your own version of Aladdin, Snow White, whatever, as we've seen over the last few years. But do it originally. Now, it tries to do it originally. It's like a more modern take. It has modern music. You've got music in there from Madonna and Queen and Ed Sheeran and J-Lo and Beyonce and the White Stripes. And it's a really eclectic kind of mix of music. Think of the kind of music that you would see in a Pitch Perfect movie. That's exactly what you get with this. There's a couple of original songs. Camila Cabello sings an original song. Idina Menzel sings an original song as well. But it's very sparse, and it is shoved between these essentially a cappella kind of poppy versions of these songs that we all know and love. Now, it is modern, but it's still set in classic times, fairy tale times. I feel like if this movie wanted to distance itself a little bit more, set it in modern times. Do a modern, like a fully modern retelling of Cinderella, and I feel like you won't have that working against you. Another reason I feel like this movie exists is quite simply to make a movie star out of Camila Cabello. Of course, she's a very, very talented pop star. She's very, very loved. I'm not someone who has any kind of opinion of her. I'm just kind of in the middle where I'm just like, she's all right. She does a decent job here. I'm not going to rail in on her. She is not an actress. She is not an actress. And this is something that you have to take into account when you see someone like this who is plucked from doing something else into a movie like this. I mean, we saw it with LeBron James in Space Jam recently. People railed in on him. He's terrible, whatever. But I'm sitting here like, he's a sportsman. He's not an actor. Take it as it is. And I feel like you have to kind of take that same vision on Camila in here, is that she's a singer. She's a performer. She's an artist, but she's kind of in a different realm. And you put her into a movie and she is maybe a little bit of a fish out of water. I'm not to say she's terrible in this, because she's not. She's perfectly fine. I mean, she's fine in this. And I honestly do think she has a long career ahead of her in movies, if it's something that she wishes to pursue. But I feel like she does have a little way to go to maybe be that star level. Fans of Camila are really, really gonna, I think, love her performance in this, and probably really gonna love the movie as well. And again, that's why I'm trying to be a little bit more reserved with my thoughts on this, because it's just simply not for me. I'm not a Camila Cabello fan. I'm not a fan of musicals. I'm certainly not a fan of Pitch Perfect. So this is just not a movie that was built for me, unfortunately, because I really did want to enjoy this. I really wanted to find something in this that I did enjoy. That said, there are some decent things in here. I mean, we talk about the set design, the costumes, all that. It's beautiful. I mean, even though it is quite obviously inspired by the Disney stuff, it does kind of stand on its own a little bit, and the costumes are beautiful, the gowns, and Idina Menzel is fantastic as always. I mean, she's terrific. She's such a powerhouse performer and a powerhouse singer. It's great to have her here, and again, maybe another little connection to Disney where you've got Elsa in here, but it is pretty cool to see her in a more villainous role for once. I mean, she played the Wicked Witch of the West, but what am I talking about? But it's more interesting to see her play something that's a little bit further removed from Frozen. And of course, James Corden is in here. the first thought that came to my mind was, why is Hollywood still casting James Corden in stuff? Because he's never good. And then I found out this is his production. Apparently it was his idea and he produced it and whatever. But look, I really don't have much else to say about this movie. I wasn't a huge fan of it, as you can tell, but it was fine. For its audience, it's perfectly fine. Take that into account when I do give my final rating on this movie. This is quite simply how I felt about the movie, but I feel like people, again, who are fans of Camila Cabello, who are fans of Pitch Perfect, fans of musicals, you're probably going to find something in this that you really like, or in fact, really love. I know a lot of people are probably even going to like this better than the Disney version. Me personally, watching this just makes me want to watch that Disney version again to get this out of my head. And with that, I will be giving Cinderella a 2.5 out of 5. Cinderella is a fairly uninspired slapdash musical built directly from the Pitch Perfect mold, clearly designed specifically to cash in on the popularity of Disney's live-action remakes and to make a film star out of its lead. Camila Cabello does her best here and probably does have a future in cinema, but has some way to go. Fans of the pop star, the Pitch Perfect music, and fairy tale musicals in general will probably find something here to enjoy. Cinderella lands exclusively on Amazon Prime Video on Friday, September 3rd, 2021. Thanks to the incredible team over at Amazon Prime for sending me a screener of Cinderella for the purposes of this review. I do feel a little bit bad about, giving this one a fairly mediocre review. I did ask for this movie to view this, and I always feel pretty bad when I have to give an average review to something, and I know this is one of the very first things I've covered for Amazon, so it makes me feel even worse about it, but I do always have to be honest with my thoughts and my opinions. I never like to sugarcoat anything or be dishonest with my viewers or to the studio, so hopefully we can work together on some stuff very soon. Thank you once again, and thanks everybody out there for watching. I'll see you on the next one. I hope you enjoy I really do hope you guys enjoy the movie. Take it easy. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, smash that big old subscribe button up on your screen to keep up to date with all my content, and hit that like button down below. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early access content, and to get your name up on the screen. Thanks again for watching.